Yo, what up? How you guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to present you our NFL Week 5 Thursday Showdown slate. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our NFL, MLB, and NBA videos. And if you haven't come and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel and DraftKings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for our DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So hey, what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
Doing good, bro. I'm actually looking forward to this video, man. I'm really liking these showdown slates. I've been having some really good success with them. Definitely want to keep it rolling today. So you ready to just jump right into it?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, we got the Rams and we got the Seahawks. We got some division rivals. This should actually be a pretty good game today. What do you think? Defensive game or offensive game? Just curious.
I said this last week. I think as the season goes on, you're going to see these Thursday night games be more offensive, just for the simple fact that it's a short week. There's not a lot of time to put a game plan in. These guys usually come in on Wednesday for their first day of practice. They're playing a game on Thursday, so it's a different week. It's a short turnaround, and I think they're going to be a lot more offensive minded, especially when you look at the Rams, right? I mean, they have a really complex offensive system. You can't really prepare for the Rams in 3 days. So, look for some offense tonight.
For sure. So we'll start at quarterback. We got Russell Wilson. We got Jared Goff. I mean, I feel like the Rams have a much better defense, than the Seattle does. But at the same time, you can never count out Russell Wilson. He's one of those guys you never really want to kind of bet your money against. So what's your thoughts on the two quarterbacks?
I mean, let's just call it what it is. For one, I mean, this is a very important football game. Both these guys are 3-1. San Francisco coming off the bye, they're 3-0. This is a big pivotal, possibly pivotal game in this division. So the quarterback position, I agree with you. Russell Wilson, he's going to have a pretty good game tonight and do pretty much what he's been doing all season long thus far. But I believe he's only 3-6 against the Rams, and he hasn't fared well against Aaron Donald and this Rams defensive line. They've kind of held him in check. So, you know, I personally have a feeling that this is going to be more of a. I think you could see some Todd Gurley action in this game. He was kind of out of mind, out of sight. There's a lot of controversy swirling around him. I, for me, I kind of want to skip the quarterback part, but there's a lot to talk about. I mean, Jared Goff throws the ball 60 times, they lose. Todd Gurley hasn't been involved in the running game. Russell Wilson has carried this offense. There's really only two weapons around him. I think that this. I don't think this is a captain or MVP spot. The quarterback tonight. I just don't.
Yeah, I personally, I'm with you. It's like I honestly do feel that the Rams, like I said, are a better team. But I mean, Seattle playing very, very good, and I think when it comes to the quarterback spot, I really truly think it's a coin flip. I think either guy could go out and put up more fancy numbers than the other guy. Like I feel like when it comes to the quarterback position between these two teams, they're very, very close. I mean, you kind of with me on that?
No, not one bit.
No. Do you think golf's way better than Russell Wilson?
I just don't think these teams are close, man. I really
No,
don't.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like I think the Rams are a better team. I'm just speaking just strictly just quarterbacks only.
No, and because I'll tell you this, any quarterback can be defined by what he does, and nobody defines a quarterback by what's around him. The only person in the history of the league that's ever been defined by what's around him, in my opinion, is Emmitt Smith, right? Oh, Emmitt Smith, yeah, he had the best offensive line, blah, 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 right? But when you talk about quarterbacks, I mean, look, Russell Wilson has no weapons around him. Will Dissly was a chalk play last weekend, and who the hell knew who Will Dissly was besides people who were just listening to talking heads say play Will Dissly, right? So he's got Tyler Lockett. CJ Prosise, a guy out of Clemson that was a really good college player who had some injury trouble. He's back. Chris Carson has not lived up to the hype. Their offensive line is not very good. Their defense is not very good. They beat the Bengals 21-20. They beat the Steelers 28-26. Those two teams just played on the Sunday night game, and it was kind of a crap game by itself. The backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, goes in and puts up 33 points in Seattle, And then Seattle does what they're supposed to do against Arizona and gives up 4 sacks to the Cardinals in a 27-10 victory, right? I just don't think Seattle is that good of a football team. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson tonight. He's the, you know, maybe because of that, you give him some MVP consideration or captain consideration because it's going to come on his legs and his arm. But
Right.
man, I just don't think that they've got. I don't think this is a really good football team. I think that they're playing good football, but when you play a team, the Bengals trash, Pittsburgh all kinds of problems, New Orleans without Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara went absolutely bonkers against them, and then you played Arizona, so I just maybe they've won the games they're supposed to win. That's what you should do. I get that argument, but I just don't think these two teams are close.
Okay, so you're liking Jared Goff a lot more than Wilson tonight, then.
Jared Goff's got a ton of weapons around him. I mean, he's got two
I
running
agree with
backs that can get off in the passing game. He's got three
three wide
bona
receivers.
fide. You could make the argument that if Allen Robinson's a number one wide receiver in Chicago, that all three of these guys could possibly be number one wide receivers in the league too.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It is a big difference in how much weapons each one has. I get you completely. Moving on to the running back position, we got Chris Carson, we got Todd Gurley. What's your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I just have a gut feeling about Todd Gurley, man. He's just absolutely bitter at his press conference. People asking him questions about if he's healthy again and this and that, and Gurley has not played really well.
Right.
That's just the
No,
bottom line.
at the same time, he hasn't really gotten the opportunity neither. They're kind of like have the training wheels on him a little bit, so to speak.
He hasn't got an opportunity, and if what they say is true, that they're trying to do this backfield split carry type plan to keep him fresh going into December and January, then in the back of your mind, you have to be thinking about, we know we have a Thursday night game early on in the season, and maybe that's got something to do with what his load has been so far to turn him around on a short week and let him give relief to some of these other guys by handing him the football 20 times tonight. I just have a feeling that it's Todd Gurley tonight, man. I just have a feeling that it's Todd Gurley on the turf against a bad defense, short week,
He's gonna have
controversy all
some
around him. It's wet, it's rainy, not great throwing weather for the football, a good Rams defensive line. I just think that it's Todd Gurley, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I get you, and like you said, it's a short week, but he's gonna have some extra rest as well at the same time, so he can get a little bit more workload and kind of get it going.
He carried the
Chris,
ball. He carried the ball 5 times. Okay, he carried the ball 5 times. So he carried the ball into the defensive front seven against Tampa Bay 5 times.
yeah,
He had 11 targets. He caught 7 balls. Right. On none of those catches did he take a big shot. Right. He and they threw the ball 60 freaking times in the game. So I mean, he's not real banged up. By the way, with all the controversy around Todd Gurley, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 22.5 fantasy points in his last game. So I don't know if people realize that because all the attention was on Goff and all the attention's been on what Gurley didn't do.
yeah.
But he did put up 23 fantasy points.
Yeah, no, I get you completely. On the flip side of things, we'll quickly just mention Chris Carson. He's a guy that, I mean, he's hit or miss. He's getting, at least 15 rushing attempts a game. He's been fumbling the ball a lot. That's one thing that's been really frustrating about him. They are using him in the pass game as well. He's averaging through 4 games. He's averaging about 4.5 targets a game. So he's a guy that they are trying to use as kind of like a workhorse, but he can't hold on to the dang ball. So, I mean, I like Gurley a lot better today. But, I mean, you going to throw Chris Carson in a couple captain spots? No, staying away completely?
Look, Chris Carson's biggest workload was last week against Arizona, 22 for 104 against Arizona. That's one. Number two, you could say he was sharked for a rushing touchdown by CJ Procise, right? Who they're high on. They love this guy. They drafted him. He just had some injury issues. He was an outstanding dynamic running back in college. Procise was. Okay?
Okay.
That's two. Number three, there was no Rashad Penny last week. He was inactive. He's supposed to play tonight. So you got 3 running backs who they've shown they want to give the ball to, and you want me to buy Chris Carson over Todd Gurley? No.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely not saying over Todd Gurley, but I definitely, on a 1-game slate, I do want to get some kind of exposure to Chris Carson. Sure.
Absolutely flex exposure. I have no problem with flex exposure, but not a chance in hell I'm putting him in my captain spot.
So need a little bit of exposure to
And if
pro
I
sides as
and
well.
if I'm wrong on the captain spot there, I'm cool living with that. It's just not to me. It's not a that's not a smart play to put him in your
Yeah,
cap flex. Yes, yeah, absolutely pro size. I mean, look, he's cheap, right? He's cheap. That's one at 7,000 on FanDuel, and then this is a guy. He's made a lot out of few touches. Okay, and
right.
the problem with that is, right? Pete Carroll was on NFL radio earlier this week talking about how high they are on this guy and what they expect out of him. I don't, it's a short week. You got Chris Carson who just carried it for 20 something times, coming off a short week. I mean, look, people, I don't know how much people realize that if a running back carries the ball 22 times on Sunday, he got into a car crash 22 times. Like, he got into a car accident 22 times, and he's got 2 days to recover from it, right? So, Penny comes back. You got Procise, who they're high on. I just get some exposure to Carson. I just don't think you see a huge amount of opportunity. I think you see more towards 12 carries and maybe 4 or 5 targets for Carson.
Got you. Moving on to the wide receiver spot. I mean, there's basically five receivers that we talk about. We just kind of leave it at that. You got all three for the Rams: Woods, Cooks, Cup, and then on the Seattle side, you got Lockett and Metcalf. I mean, outside of that, I'm not really looking at any of the other receivers. What's your thoughts on kind of the receivers?
Yeah, Woods, Cup, Cooks, Tyler Lockett, um, DK
Metcalf.
Metcalf, and I mean you could throw in Jaron Brown if you want, or a Josh Reynolds if you want. Both guys have had big plays in their career. Josh Reynolds was a guy that he stepped in big when Cooper Kupp went out last year. Talking about Jaron Brown, he's had, in the last 2 weeks, he's had 9 targets, 6 catches, 80 receiving yards. He could be on a slate like this where it's one game. This is a guy that at 6,500 can help you load up and kind of differentiate yourself by loading up. This guy goes for 40 yards and a touchdown tonight on one play. Could be a difference in winning all the money and just cashing. And then Josh Reynolds, not involved like he was, but last week two targets, 1 catch, 22 yards. He could get you a red zone target and a touchdown too. So those guys are worth some limited exposure and flex spots for sure.
Definitely. Moving on, and I mean, I don't want to quickly go over the. I mean, just kind of talk forever on the wide receiver spot. I think it's pretty clear. Like outside the couple guys you kind of threw in as darts. I mean, it's clear cut. There's five guys that you just kind of mix your exposure with and just kind of move on. Right? Pretty simple.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think that you just take some chances with some other guys. Yeah.
Definitely. Moving on to the tight end spot, you got Will Disley, you got Gerald Everett. Basically the two tight ends for each team. What's your thoughts on those? Actually, you can also throw in too, like the Rams are using a little bit of Higbee also. So I mean, obviously Disley is going to be, the most popular tight end, just coming off, back-to-back games with touchdowns, 7 and 8 targets. Who else? But I mean, what are your thoughts on these other tight ends outside of Disley?
Look, I really think that Disley would have been a really good low-owned play if he wasn't playing against Arizona last week. I just think people are going to streamline tight ends against Arizona. Everybody goes up, it seems like, against Arizona for the tight end spot. But when you look deep into it, I mean, the guy's gotten 22 targets in the first 4 games. He's got uh, 19 receptions off that. He's had at least 50 receiving yards in each game. He's got 4 touchdowns already, at least 15 fantasy points in 3 or 4 games. Russell Wilson clearly likes the guy. And if you look at Russell Wilson over the course of his career, be it Luke Wilson or Jimmy Graham when he was there, Russell Wilson is liked the tight end. He's liked to throw the tight end. The tight end is a weapon in their offensive system. So he's definitely in play. He's going to be the chalkiest tight end play. And then, yeah, you're right. They've used Higbee, the Rams have, and Higbee and Gerald Everett are the two tight ends Gerald Everett, man, is a super athletic dude who just
Right.
can't ever seem to really get it going. He did have 8 targets last week, 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. That's the type of production that they could get out of Gerald Everett kind of week in and week out. The dude's a freak of nature, super athletic. He's had some injury problems in the past. I mean, if this guy can put something together, it really frees up the shot plays and the deep crossing routes for a guy like Brandon Cooks. And the problem with Everett, the problem with Higbee, is that they're third in line when it comes to red zone targets. I mean, look, Cooper Kupp has led this team when he's been healthy in red zone targets. So you need a big play out of these guys, like a 25-yard touchdown catch down the middle of the field or something like that from a Rams tight end. But Disley definitely gets the leg up.
For sure. Real quick before we get out of here, we always got to mention kickers, bro. Kickers been making a difference on these showdown slates. You like Greg Zuerlein or you like Jason Myers more?
Greg Zuerlein, I mean, he's the proven. I think he's the proven veteran kicker here, right? I mean, he's hit 9 of 11 field goal attempts through 4 games this year. You take a look. I think he's perfect from his extra points. Zuerlein, year in and year out, the dude's got a freaking boot, man. He can drill 50-yarders, and to me, when you got an environment like tonight where it's going to be loud, it's going to be wet, damp, rainy, etc. Greg Zuerlein can go out there. He's a veteran, been here before, nail a field goal, move on. So I like Zuerlein more.
Yeah, no, I mean Zuerlein definitely is the proven kicker. But
and I think the other thing too that I'll mention quickly before I finish up is I think the Rams can score more points, right, and have more red zone opportunities. So I think the Rams offense has more weapons, and that should yield more points, and more points is going to yield more opportunities for Zuerlein than it will
Jason
Myers.
Yeah, no, I get you completely. But I do still got some interest in Jason Myers. I feel like, the Rams defense is pretty good. Russell Wilson's going to move the ball a little bit. We know that. He's proven he's going to do that over and over. And I can see a lot of drives stalling for Seattle and them kind of having to settle for field goals. This is a game where I think there's 2 pretty good field goal kickers compared to sometimes there's like one obvious one. So I do like both of those guys. But yeah, man, I think that's really where we're at with our NFL Week 5 showdown slate. If you want to check our position rankings for this week's NFL main slate, make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. And hey, good luck on your guys' contest tonight, all right? Peace out.